mentoring large number of startups within IITs. He is part of multiple startups within IIT system, and we can actually say he is one of the best examples in this country where an academician can actually get into entrepreneurship and do entrepreneurship very, very successfully. So apart from Ravi, we have with us Dr. Shelja. She is advisor at Principal Scientific Advisor to Prime Minister's Office, PSS Office. She is Scientist H, and before joining PSS, Dr. Shelja was advisor at DBT, Department of Biotechnology, and she is championing the NRF part, that is National Research Foundation part of NEP within this framework. Apart from Shelja and Ravi, I have with me Dr. Mohit Gambhir, who is director at MoE's, that is Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell. He is championing multiple initiatives like Smart India Hackathon, Yukti, National Innovation and Startup Policy. And finally, I will be talking. My name is Dr. Abhay Chere. I am Chief Innovation Officer for Ministry of Education. And I will be talking about initiatives like IICs, then Masters in MBA program, Innovation Ambassador program, and a couple of other really interesting initiatives which MIC or Ministry of Education Innovation Cell is doing. So over to Ravi. You have made an interesting presentation. So Ravi, I will request you to start with your presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Abhay. Just want to know, is the control with me or someone will be forwarding that?
I will be actually doing the control.
Okay, so I'll just say next once in a while.
Yeah.
Usually doesn't happen, but somehow today it happened. But I'm very happy to be in this very august panel with Dr. Shelja, Dr. Mohit Gambhir. They're all pioneers in pushing major at a global level kind of initiatives in kind of size and scale and vision. Step back and just recall 2 weeks back when we saw Dr. Kasturi Rangan, former chairman of ISRO, very modestly, being in the room when this whole national education policy was launched, unveiled, dedicated to the nation. The kind of deliberations that have gone into this, I think almost 5 years in this making, with multiple consultations with academia, all stakeholders, and so on. This has been great. So I'm here to share with you a few insights of my reading of this as an academic, as a researcher, and also someone who has been linked to innovation ecosystem in the country. So I like to present to you that if you just look at India and Jugaad and Google the word, you will see some fantastic examples, as you can see. And next, if you see some more examples of these of fantastic innovations, even in COVID times. Dr. Abhay, can we keep going? Okay, so even in COVID times, we saw examples of that. Next slide. I think technical issues still are there. We're not able to control the slides.
Ravi, I have already changed it. Whether it's visible for you?
Yeah, now it's come up on the screen. So that is our modern thing. I also thought that take a step back into history, and we all have heard about Nalanda and Vikramshila, but also Takshashila also we have heard, which is now in Western Punjab, Pakistan, and Vallabhi in Gujarat. I mean, just looking at these fills us with inspiration about what it could have been a few hundreds of years when students from all over the world have come and learned from each other and from gurus in multiple disciplines. Okay, next, next. But if you look at today's thing, I think it is taking time to reflect on my screen at least. Okay, so but if you look at today's scenario,
It is really taking time to change the slides. I don't know why. It is.
yeah, yeah. Is it still possible? Is it still
Let
possible
me.
for me to have control? It will save a lot of trouble and time.
Yes. Uh, I don't know what is happening, but can you get the? Can you share? You
No,
have share.
the share button is grayed out for me. The share button is grayed out.
Rahul, you should give share options to all the panelists, Rahul. Uh,
Yeah, yeah. Now I can see. Now I can get. Yeah, I think now it should be much better for all of us. Okay, so let me just quickly go through whatever finished just now. So also you may notice from my first slide that I wear multiple hats, but let me go through and so we said that Indians are innovative by nature, and maybe it is in our DNA because from the ancient times, I think we have I think maths and everything else, logic and tarka and everything in our blood perhaps. But if you look at today's scenario, we are importing virtually everything that we see from consumer electronics to defense equipment, industrial machinery, medical devices, even software. If they say India is software superpower, why are we importing software products also? Okay, so something is an issue, and the reason I think many people saying is that there's something to do with our education, in the sense that we have been imposed on us last so many decades, maybe since British times, the rote learning kind of a thing. It doesn't teach us how to think, how to decide, how to be innovative, how to be creative. And that's the reason perhaps this is time to kind of give it our full attention to this quality education. Quality education can lead to innovation, industry, and things like that. And they in turn can lead to multiple what is called a sustainable development goals of the United Nations. So the whole NEP, National Education Policy, vision of that is to bring education back into the center of our society, center of focus, center of attention of the government, industry, society, everyone else. And I think with this, they are saying that it'll allow us to not only get our full human potential, but also social development and national development, and eventually, of course, determine the future of the country. With all this young population, it is absolutely important. And so if you look at the tick marks in the vision and goal of the why this NEP is there, scientific advancement leading to industrial economic growth, and of course leading to more equal distribution of opportunities, and of course of the benefits of development, and of course even preserving our own heritage in terms of knowledge, culture, and eventually all these things put together also integration and global leadership, of course. So this is very good framework. I think people have applied a lot of their mind and attention to bringing the framework. But having said that, it's a framework. Let us remember that it's a vision, it's a framework, it is a structure where we, all of us as society, as teachers, we all have to fill in our details. So if you look at the documents, about 70-page document, it is into 4 parts. It talks about the foundation being laid at school education, even before preschool education, school between lower school, middle school, high school, and then of course higher education is the focus area, which is of today's discussion also. And I've been asked to focus mostly on within higher education, what is the role of innovation and research and innovation, and I'm adding entrepreneurship because that is the other outcome of innovation. And then, of course, there are other two parts, which is other focus areas and making it happen. So when it comes to part two, which is higher education, there are these about 11 chapters, and it talks about how do we improve the quality of our universities. What I'm very happy to see here, that although I represent IIT here and my education was in NIT, but it is the universities that is a focus of attention of this NEP, and the whole thing is about how do we again put the energy back, empowerment back, autonomy back, and make them thriving centers of research, innovation, ecosystem kind of a thing. So many of the sections have dealt with research and innovation. I picked up some of those points because in the next 10 minutes, I thought I'll just give you a lay of the land about what are they talking about in terms of these two. So if I put this, my understanding of the whole situation right now and why we need NEP, our industry right.
Ravi, we lost you.
Other regulatory frameworks. So all these. Oh, am I still there?
Now you're back.
Yeah. So I just said, I thought that I'll lay of the land the scenario of this research, innovation, entrepreneurship in the country with respect to industry, because industry is finally the custodian of the IP, and they take it forward in terms of commercialization and making social impact. So if you look at this whole framework, our industry is neither able to compete with the Western quality of the Western MNCs, nor cost of the Eastern or Southeastern countries. But if you look at the customers, they still need better, faster, easier, more affordable products. So it is easy to lose hope. But this is a golden opportunity, because if you see on the horizon now, all this 3D CAD CAM, 3D printing, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, cloud, Internet of Things, imaging, image processing, robotics, sensor, Internet of Things. All these are if you look at the heart of it, they're all IT. And I told you earlier that somehow I think IT, mathematics, geometry, programming, logic, all this is in our blood of Indians, whether you like it or not, it is in our blood. That's the reason why we have made such a big dent in the IT industry. But all this is IT. And we just have to leverage these IT tools to making these new products. And so the way forward is innovation. But innovation is the center of the discourse of today's discussion also. But if you look at precursor to innovation is research, and after innovation is entrepreneurship. So these three, research, innovation, entrepreneurship, they make a cohesive whole. But this is not possible unless we bring all the stakeholders together, all expertise together. We're talking about science, we're talking about design, engineering, technology, social sciences, management, humanities. Unless all of them are working together, it's not possible. So the national education policy talks a lot about bringing them together. And I present to you again a framework. If you look at the whole ballgame from academia to industry or society, the translation of knowledge, if you see. And if you look at, let us say, 4 axes, we teachers love to present in terms of axis, y-axis, x-axis. So on y-axis, I have creation and transfer. On x-axis, I have knowledge and products. Okay. So if you look at it, you get 4 quadrants. I hope you love this. And look at knowledge creation, can say, and then product transfer is business, right? But these are done with 4 different kinds of people. And we think that these are specialized people, cannot be entrepreneur cannot be teacher. We have these mindsets. And the biggest mindset is that we say that knowledge and wealth cannot coexist. I mean, this is kind of drilled into our DNA for ages. Maybe it is our 300 years of dominance. I don't know what it is, but it is drilled into our DNA that these two cannot coexist. And when I showed it to someone very, very, very respected person in the country, he said, yeah, it is so difficult. We have to bring them together. This mindset has to change. But to bring them together, we have to put a lot of Shakti in the middle, And that is how this slide came up. So if you look at the whole innovation ecosystem, from research to innovation to entrepreneurship, and why it is not happening, if you again delve deep into that, it is because of what I call as the valleys of death. Okay. As a scientist, we get a lot of ideas in the lab, and maybe it even takes a leap of faith, a little bit of facilities, and a little bit of time and effort to actually convert the idea into a proof of concept. Because idea in my mind, no one can understand, no one can see. Put it together in some jugaad fashion also, doesn't matter. But at least something you can explain to people. That's the first valley of death. The second value of depth over which you have to leap over is your proof of concept to prototype. And that is where you need a product development centers or innovation centers. And that is where innovators, engineers who are innovators, they need to build a prototype, 3D printing, breadboarding, software apps, you build the whole thing. And then you have a third value of depth where you have to convert the prototype into a commercially viable or marketable product. That is where entrepreneurs come into picture. Again, the same person can become entrepreneur, but these are a different breed of people. Those who know how to convert a prototype into a marketable product. And that's where the incubators come into picture. And only after that, you can do a, startup happens, and after you mass production and so on. Unless we have multiple disciplines, as I showed you in the previous slide, and the entire pathway, unless you have that. So interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, there is a difference between the two. Unless you have these two, we say multidisciplinary, you need to learn about multiple subjects, okay? Including, in my opinion, why shouldn't high school students learn about finance and law, okay? And of course, constitution, things like that, which are very, very valuable when you go into your entrepreneurship journey. Similarly, interdisciplinary research. A mechanical professor, if he says, I only do mechanical and not something else, that is multidisciplinary. But the moment a mechanical professor learns about electronics, that is an example of interdisciplinary research. So we have to cross over and get into these interstitial areas. That is when, so you need both these things, multidisciplinary education and interdisciplinary research. So if you look at the principles in the national education policy, they talk about the absolute, these words, creativity, creative thinking, logical decision making, innovation. These words are there throughout from beginning to end, right from school education all the way to higher university educations. And there's a two-way street. This collaborative, multidisciplinary research, education and development, and better education development leads to this research also. So research and education are a two-way street. That is said again and again. And it cannot happen unless you give a lot of autonomy and empowerment, and also trust the faculty to do the right thing. That is how what IITs do. We hire the best people, but to give them enormous freedom to do whatever they want. Okay, and 90%, 80% do very well in that respect. So you need a regulatory framework, but it has to be light and tight. Some kind of a self-regulatory kind of mechanism, some kind of public disclosure audit, some once in a while occasional expert assessment and things like that. But many of us academics, especially universities, have gotten used to this oversight, continuous, you can say assessment, evaluation by others. And so they have to take a leap of faith themselves. Like Hanumans, we have to trust in our own inner faith and take a leap of faith and try it once. If you fail, doesn't matter. Failure is part of life. And so the NEP also talks about laying the foundation right from school. And if you look at these words, all these words are, we have to build our curriculum, our pedagogy, teacher training to make sure that we are able to inculcate these things and not rote subjects in the students. And obviously, teachers obviously play a very big role. We see some teachers in those some Scandinavian countries, they're very well celebrated. And the reason is because the best of the best teachers go into the education field. And so we need to hire good teachers, including local experts. If you have a local expert who is very good in entrepreneurship or finance or a local agriculture or craft, we get them as teachers, at least for one subject, at least for classes. Okay, and that lends a beautiful kind of a practicality to the education of the whole thing. And teachers obviously have to have continuous improvement. Without that, it is not possible. And obviously, standard setting and all that for continuous improvement teachers, so they can have innovative curriculum, so the students can benefit and become obviously innovators. That is a whole pathway that has been very well established in the policy. And of course, when it comes to universities, it is a basis for knowledge creation and innovation. Knowledge creation and innovation, which is research and innovation, that is it. And it is very clear that without good research, we cannot contribute, cannot take the ideas for social impact. This is what we have seen in the best universities all over the world. And with the economy becoming more and more knowledge economy, where they're using new ideas to create new products and services, it is essential for it to start from the education institute. So we need students, we need to train students who are, of course, good people, but also thoughtful, creative, well-rounded and holistic individuals. Of course, with a very good skill set, mindset, and of course, resources at their disposal. So we have to identify what kind of a skill set and values that we have to incorporate into the whole thing. The problem is that in most universities here, IITs to some extent are okay with that, although there's a lot of scope for improvement. But universities essentially, the emphasis has gone too much onto teaching and teaching multiple subjects just once or twice, which is not very good. You need to teach something at least for 3, 4. That is good, excellent, outstanding research. As I said earlier, it cannot lead to better students and so on. So the solution to that has been to rethink the whole thing from scratch and say that we'll create some kind of a national research foundation on which Dr. Shalja is going to be speaking about right after this. So this is the thought, and it is not about funding research in only one area, but making it multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, and so on. And which also means that they are saying that because innovation by nature is multiple disciplines, they will phase out what's called a single stream higher education institutes over a period of time. Either you become research intensive universities, or you tie up with the clusters, vibrant clusters of higher education institutes which are into multiple disciplines. So the holistic thing which is coming in, and I think this you might have seen, they're now saying that you will have 4 years of bachelor's, but actually, if you do 1 year, you get a certificate. If you do 2 years, you get a diploma. If you do 3 years, you get a bachelor's degree. But if you do 4 years, you get a bachelor's degree with research. And once you have this degree, you can straight away go into master's degree with 1 year. If you do 4 years bachelor's with research, you can get into 1 year master's, or you can get into from beginning to get into 5 years of integrated bachelor's and master's also. Either way, in 5 years you can have a master's degree, but you have to spend 1 or 2 years in research. And the PhD bachelor's, this bachelor's with research, and MPhil program they want to discontinue. Maybe there is a lot of logic in doing that. Now, this is one thing which I liked very much. I like the name, I like the title, Multidisciplinary Education and Research Institutes, MERU. As the name says, and I like the visual feeling of that thing. They say Mount Kailash is like the Meru, and then I was very fortunate to go there about 5 years back. And this is the whole concept, the whole vision of model, absolutely world-class, holistic public universities for holistic and multidisciplinary education and research to highest global standards. This is something, a vision which as time has come, we all have to put our best people together, best brains together to create these universities and focus on research innovation and then taking that into education. And they're talking about what will be the elements of those things. So they will have incubation centers, technology development centers, frontier research, science, of course, so science, engineering, technology, innovation and application, and interdisciplinary, as I mentioned, again and again. And these will be global and globalized things, and they do it by linking with the top universities, high-ranking universities all over the world, for all these things, research, teaching, as well as faculty and student exchanges. Now, the role of teachers, I'm just coming to the end of my thing, but the role of teachers has been central in the entire policy, right from school education, college education to university education. And classically, if I look back into my own life over the last 30 years, when we join these education institutes, higher education institutes, they say immediately they throw you into teaching. And so it is like a big nightmare. They throw you in the middle of the ocean. You have never been trained as a teacher, and now suddenly you're teaching, let's say, 100 students in a new subject. Absolutely nightmare. But over a period of time, you start loving that. Some people love that a lot more, and then the research suffers. Of course, some people focus on research or allowed to do research. They do light teaching. So we have become like we love either this or that. And some of us, like me, we loved innovation so much that we actually put aside a little bit of teaching and research. We did not prioritize that. We were doing that, but not prioritize that. And eventually, the link with society. So this is a problem. But unless we connect all these four as teachers, we cannot make a real difference to society. And it's like Abhimanyu's Chakravyuh, there's only one way to go in, and the way to go in is from society. So I tell all the teachers that I come across that get out of your classes and laboratories and offices, go to real world, Go and see a farm or a factory or a hotel or a hospital. See real life. Look at what is happening in that. Look at the problems. And of course, with your video phone, you can record, take pictures, take a video, and show the video or picture and tell a story in your next class. Okay, and that makes your class very interesting. And some student will, of course, will get up and say, why are they doing like that? Why can't they do like this? An idea, and don't come in their way. Tell the student, try it out. If it succeeds, great. If it fails, all of you learn so much from failures. And eventually it goes into a project and innovation, and you go back to that same farm or a factory or hotel or a hospital and tell them, this is what we think. What do you think? Make them a partner. If you do this again and again, it sets up a golden spiral of teaching, research, innovation, and impact on society. So this has been part of the policy, national education policy. So they said that it is possible only if the teachers have, their teaching duties have to be reduced, moderate. I mean, I say that maybe 3 or 4 or maybe 6 hours of teaching per week is about the maximum. But of course, numbers are not there. They're just saying it should not be too excessive. An optimal ratio of teacher to student. When I went to Shantiniketan, I was so thrilled to see these individual cottages under the trees, where you have 10 students sitting around a teacher in a circle. Teacher on one side of a circle, of course, but it's such a beautiful way. 1:10 ratio is beautiful, and you teach them multiple subjects. You are their mentor and so on, and enough time for research and professional contribution as well as your own professional development. And of course, it means empowering faculty, empower them and give them autonomy as they see best. Okay, give them freedom. I think most teachers are honest people. They mean well to society, and that's why they're in teaching profession. So recognize their contributions, recognize their good research, assess their performance by multiple measures. What I'm putting here is only just 2 of the many measures, not just teaching, not just research, but also many measures. And the institutional heads, the directors and principals, and build from scratch a culture of excellence and incentivize all the good things, outstanding teaching, outstanding research, and institutional service, of course, creating ecosystem and so on. And this is my last slide. So I just want to conclude by saying that throughout the national education policy, I could see a thread of research and innovation and entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship word sometimes comes in terms of professional education, or what we call as diploma or certificate courses. But it comes in many ways throughout, from school education to college to university education. And this whole concept of this multidisciplinary research universities, MERU, and many other things, including National Research Foundation, which my Dr. Shelja, the next speaker, will speak about. It represents a holistic collaboration between government and academia, industry, and even the society at large. And what we can do together, time has come for us, all of us, to be together into this. All of us to put our best brains, best thoughts, best ideas, and best people forward. And I think that's the way to go. And I think in the next 10, 20 years, in our lifetime, my hope is that in my lifetime, I should be able to see students coming out of these schools and colleges becoming absolutely fantastic in terms of contributions, becoming thought leaders, and making a real difference to society. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravi, and thanks for such a sparkling presentation. I do have one immediate question out here, and though we have the Q&A sessions in the end, but very quick question, Professor Ravi. NEP says about a lot of things. You said about they can just move on with 1 year, 2 year, and 3 years as well. They have options. But again, what about some gifted children's? Like how to handle the child prodigies, what we say, the high IQ people. Somebody is very good in mathematics, somebody is very good in sciences, or maybe in music from the nascent stage. So I'm really curious to know, and I'm sure all the audience would be, and if you can throw some light on it, Professor Ravi.
I did notice that there is an entire section on gifted children. And gifted children, my personal way of looking at them is not those who are in metro cities in well-to-do families. They can take care of themselves. We're talking about gifted children in small towns and villages who perhaps don't even know how to communicate. No one can spot them. Maybe the teacher has spotted them, but that's about it. But they are no way to the mainstream. And the NEP lays a lot of emphasis, and an entire section is about them. They talk about, for example, clubs and circles. So put gifted children in circles, in their own locality, but a national circle, maybe international circle. a circle of other gifted children in, let us say, what you said, music or painting, or maybe maybe electronics or robotics or drones, whatever it is. Put them a circle of that. Number one, circles, and also clubs. These two words come into that. But also they're talking about internships. And I know that I know one very committed person in this, Dr. Anita Kurup at National Institute of Advanced Studies, Bangalore. In fact, her ideas came into this section. I know that. And what she does is she picks up these gifted children from across the country. I've seen she kids from Rajasthan and Assam and places, and she brings them together. It could be a bunch of about maybe 20, 25, 30 students, and she interacts them with the top leaders. So I've actually handled one bunch of kids like that. And imagine them meeting a minister or maybe Dr. Kasturi Rangan or ISRO director. Imagine the interaction and the inspiration that these people can get. I mean, this makes a difference, and they go back with a lifelong impression and commitment to do something good for the country and society. So this is an important part of the NEP, and I'm so happy that it has found its place into the whole thing.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravi, for highlighting that. And I'm sure the generation to come, they will remember and they'll cherish the capabilities they have and make a deep impact on our country. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Shailja Vaidya-Gupta to make her presentation and bestow upon the details about NRF. Dr. Shailja. Dr. Shailja, you are on mute.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Good
yeah,
morning.
and would you like to share your own presentation, or shall I?
I think that may be easier because it's less complicated.
Yeah. So you are a presenter. You can directly share your presentation.
Okay. Share.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I can't
Yeah.
see my presentation.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Now it's coming in.
Coming in. एक minute.
Ji.
Shailaji, you have to actually select the app which you want to do, because
Yeah, I'm still looking at
yeah.
it. I can't see any applications.
No, once
Okay.
you share, once you click on the
Why
share,
don't you
it
do
will.
it, Mohit?
Yeah. Okay. Let me just move on.
Stop sharing. I'll stop sharing. Stop sharing.
Ji. Yeah, I'm just doing it. Give me a second.
Should I start with my presentation? I have it on my desktop, I think. Should I do it from my desktop?
Ma'am, yes, our IT fellow is saying that would be much more easier if you can share the desktop.
Yeah, I think I'll do that.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yes, ma'am. We can see it.
तो ये राहुल को बोलना.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So to build on what Ravi just said about the national education policy, I will add some information on the National Research Foundation. And he talked about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and there are 17 goals, and all the member nations have agreed to meet these goals, these targets by 2030. And the Sustainable Development Goal number 4 is quality education, which is to ensure inclusive, equitable, and quality education for all. And if you look at education, it is the foundation on which the innovator, on which holds the innovation edifice. And between the national education policy, which was almost simultaneously started when these sustainable development goals were announced, and almost simultaneously they thought in 2015 on national education policy started. This is, we hope, the foundation for quality education and equal education for everyone across this country. The National Research Foundation, which is part of the NEP, will be the edifice which we will create on this very solid foundation. Of course, the success of both will depend on the inclusiveness and accessibility of quality education to all across India. We must understand that there are still a large number of Indians not having access to quality education. And if you look at the challenges to innovative thinking, and why is it that we are not the leaders in knowledge, wealth, and knowledge, which Ravi alluded to. We are still an emerging economy. We still have the pressures of economic security, which drives our career paths. We need to follow a structured education path which ensures a secure income. If you look at school education, most of our schools are in regional languages, while the higher education is in English. And this is one single reason which leads to a dropout at college level, a large number of dropout in college levels. And we have to meet this well. We are realizing that our English language benefits, or the positive thing India had, is not really paying us. We're looking at China, we're looking at and all the other countries which have emerged despite not knowing English and continuing with their regional languages, emerge as innovative leaders in the world. And because of this language barrier, we lose talent, thought, and confidence, because an articulation in English language, primarily in English language, is considered as such a positive for a person. If you look at the large number of the students, and Professor Dinesh Singh, the ex-VC, former VC of Delhi University, said the largest population of students coming into Delhi University are the first generation in their family getting an opportunity for higher education. And that means that these people are working very, very hard. And despite everything and anything, getting into the best university in this country, the Delhi University, which is very, very difficult to get an admission into. Somebody said it's easier getting an admission to Ivy Leagues and Cambridge and Cambridge universities of the world, but more difficult getting admission into the Delhi University. Despite that, we get a large number of students into the best universities in this country, which are the first in their family to get higher education. So obviously, because this family is not educated, the family nurture is absent, and the state has to step in to provide the nurture to stem the dropout from colleges and universities. This is imperative to stop bring the to bridge the gap between the haves and have-nots. We have to have a more equal society, and the only way we can have a more equal society is when quality, the best quality education is available to everyone, to the weakest, and they're provided with equal opportunities and support. If we look at our infrastructure, our educational infrastructure, we have a large number of schools state-wise, and we have about 15.21 lakh schools across the country. Uttar Pradesh leads with more than 2.5 lakh schools, followed by Madhya Pradesh, which is at 1.5, Rajasthan a little bit more than 1 lakh, Maharashtra, West Bengal, Bihar, Karnataka, Assam, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Chhattisgarh, Gujarat, Jharkhand. This is Telangana, Jammu Kashmir, and Punjab. So we have a large number of schools, and we also have a large number of universities. There are 874 universities in total. A large number of them are private universities, 287. Deemed universities are 123, state universities are 381, and central universities are 54. Again, if we look at UP leads is second after Rajasthan in the number of universities, primarily because of the private universities there. MP, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, Haryana have large number of private universities. But if we look at the literacy rate of our states, the number of schools and colleges apparently do not have an effect on the literacy rates of our states. Kerala, with not as many universities and not as many schools, leads in literacy, while Andhra Pradesh is one of the worst, as is Arunachal. UP is not very good either. Neither is Rajasthan. Rajasthan is third lowest in literacy rate, which while it had a large number of schools and universities. So what does this indicate? This indicates that the quality education, no matter which university, no matter how many universities, no matter how many schools, the quality of education is missing from these schools and universities. And it should be a cause of concern for us. Okay. If you look at the subsequent, the S&T system in the government, we have various ministries looking after various aspects to promote S&T in their areas. We have HRD, Ministry of Environment, Health, Family Welfare, Defense, Science and Technology, Ministry of it should be Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, Ministry of Earth Sciences, Ministry of Agriculture, Agriculture, and they have various research institutions under them. And if you look at the research institutions, there are about 376 research institutions, one Indian Institute of Science, many NITs, medical colleges, etc. And yet, when we look at our India's research and innovation outcome, we are really not the world leaders in any case. If you look at the number of patents, China and USA lead in terms of patent applications. And this is from the 2017 BIPO report. India, with only 46,582 patent applications, are really way down. And out of this 46,582 applications, 68% are made by non-resident Indians. This should be a cause of concern if you're looking to be knowledge economy. Number of publications, if you look at the number of publications, although we rank 5th in the world in terms of publications, the publications of USA and China, they are 4 times as much at as many publications as in India. We are ranked 5th in number of publications, but in the publication in top 10 journals is only 15.8%, while China is 27.6% and USA is 36.2%. China is making rapid strides in bridging the gap between being emerging knowledge economy to be knowledge leader in the world. And if we look at the shortcomings, what were the 2 shortcomings? We have an education system where we are still struggling to get our literacy rates comparable to the world. And we have a research ecosystem which is fairly well funded. Where are the problems? 2 major shortcomings in the present system is research is mainly conducted in relatively well-funded standalone research institutions apart from IITs. But IITs also, if you look at the research is still confined to the basic sciences, to the fundamental sciences. Engineering research is still missing because the engineers graduating out of IITs move into a different career path. And if you look at education, and education has been mainly confined to the universities, which are too poorly funded and cannot pursue research as much as they should be pursuing. The education and research is so deeply entwined that to separate them artificially is the biggest shortcoming of our present education research innovation ecosystem. The National Research Foundation seeks to bridge the gap between this education and research. And if we look at what the NRF proposes to do, the approach it is taking, the NRF will fund competitive peer-reviewed grant proposals of all types in any of our official languages. This is something which has been missing from all the schemes which the government of India floats. The access to these schemes is a barrier because we can only access these schemes in English primarily and maybe sometimes in Hindi. When we allow access to our schemes and our grants in all languages, maybe someone in Kerala who has traditional knowledge of our Ayurveda system and a herbal medicinal system can submit a proposal in Malayalam or from Tamil Nadu in Tamil to the government of India saying, this is what I know and this is what I want to do scientifically to promote Ayurveda in this country. Similarly, from the Himalayas, Uttarakhand can submit a proposal in Hindi as how to protect our receding glaciers, which is a huge cause of concern. And this opens out avenues for everyone to think in their native language and be able to propose to the government that this is what we would like to do. The NRF will seed, grow, and facilitate research at universities and colleges, where research capacity is currently in its nascent state and which are poorly funded. The NRF will target universities and colleges primarily where research capacity is limited and resources are limited. What are the process which we are looking at? The NRF will set up 10 directorates, which will have which will encompass areas across science, technology, social sciences, arts and humanities. And central to all these areas, this will be natural sciences, mathematical sciences, engineering, earth and environmental sciences, social sciences, arts, design and humanities, Indian languages and knowledge system, health, agriculture, innovation and entrepreneurship. Central to this is arts, design and culture. We as a nation need to get back to our primal, and Ravi spoke about our beautifully designed universities. They were, by looking at the design of those universities, you could feel that they were really the innovative, they were the knowledge center of the civilization at that point of time. Design in the way we think, the way we articulate, the way we the whole civilization looks like is so important. And our civilization looked beautiful because it was designed beautifully. And we have to get back that sense of design into everything we do, including our scientific thought process. It is the central of everything else, art, design, and culture. The NRF proposes to set up professorships at universities and colleges each year, of course, and these professorships will be chairs, so to speak, and will be occupied by the highest quality researchers. They will be in colleges and universities across the state. We hope to set up educational institutions which are center of excellence in areas of critical national importance, whether it is machine learning, environmental sciences, preservation of Indian languages, museum, traditional knowledge, etc. These center of excellence, which will be primarily educational institutions and an authority on each of these areas will be created. They will also be nationwide, multi-institutional, multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary national missions of critical importance of the kind, whether it requires the Himalayan glaciers or preservation of our traditional knowledge or our architecture, re-emergence of our traditional Indian architecture. We also, the NRF also hopes to set up doctoral and postdoctoral fellowships of a kind which has not been existing in India before, and 1,000 doctoral and 1,000 postdoctoral fellowships have been built into the NRF, which for every year and across directorates. These doctoral and postdoctoral fellows will also be can access a teaching assistantship program defined in the NRF, which is critical because then they can go to the colleges and universities to teach while augmenting their own incomes and bridging the gap between research and education. Teaching assistantship for doctoral and postdoctoral fellowship is critical to creating a mass of teachers, which India is lacking. If we look at the NRF, what do we finally plan to achieve or we envisage to achieve through the NRF? The NRF hopes to bridge the chasm between education and research by being different. It is a different approach to the way research is being funded at this present moment. To foster free thought, creativity, and innovation in one's mother tongue. If till your school you are being taught in your mother's tongue, you think in your mother's tongue, your creativity is in your mother's tongue, and then to switch toward higher education in a language which is alien to you, you lose out on your creative thoughts and your innovative thoughts. And that is why we are not emerging as knowledge leaders, because we are losing out on our best minds to a foreign alien language. And the NRF will provide quality and equal opportunity of education, research, and innovation to all. The aim and the goal of NRF is that the opportunity which everybody deserves and everybody requires to get ahead in life, it will be a tool to provide that opportunity and goal to everyone across this country. And this is really my last slide. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was mesmerizing to know what NRF is going to bring in, what it is going to provide. And certainly I like the stuff that if one is able to, think in the mother tongue as in what you mentioned, or if there's the natural instinct which can bring in the thought process, it's certainly going to improve the research quotient and bring in much more quality. One very quick thing, if you would like to throw some light, we have seen that yes, NRF is going to bring in so much of research capabilities and interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary kind of thing, and then art, design, and humanities will be the primary focus. So I'd like to know your very quick insight that how you think it is going to change the research culture overall and the subsequent funding, because one would be coming in from Kerala, as you mentioned, one would be coming in from Uttarakhand, as you mentioned, and now let us suppose both want to work together. Are we thinking of bridging them up as well?
Mohit, that's not a very easy question to answer. And given the complexities within our country, we are very siloed people. We barely move out of our comfort zones. And the moment we move out of our comfort zones and interact across disciplines and states, I think that is when we will really leverage the real strength of this country. And it is something, if we can bridge this gap between how North thinks about what it does, to put it loosely, and how the South thinks about how it does its thing, it is such a huge strength of our varied biodiversity. The biodiversity of this country is so rich and so strong and so powerful that if it comes together, I think great things can happen in this country. If you look at just textiles and the range of textiles which we have across this country, we should be the leaders of the world, and the embroideries we have, the textiles we have, we should be taking over the fashion world of this, the fashion industry in the world. But because we still work in silos and we do not reach out of our comfort zone, we are at a disadvantage. We are not using our strengths well. And NRF, I think, will be a small attempt, but it is a dominoes effect if you look at it. And once something starts, everything will follow. So we hope it will be the trim tab, the little rudder which moves the large ship.
Yeah, very, very true, ma'am. And I believe it has a very similar analogy, like emotions has no language. It's very similar. Then we'll say research, it will have no language barriers. We'll certainly say to that. Yeah. And now that brings on to my own presentation. I'll be starting with what Ministry of Education Innovation Cell is doing regarding NEP, and I hope my slides are pretty much visible. So in the light of NEP and everything what has been said by Professor Ravi, by Dr. Gupta, when they highlighted what about NRF, that Indian knowledge system, how we are trying to bridge the gap. And now one step which was taken over by Ministry of Education's Innovation Cell, establishment of this cell, that we started with a couple of initiatives at innovation cells under, at AICTE we are housed, and then we moved on. A lot of initiatives we started 2 years ago almost. It was in 2018 we got established. And I must say these initiatives, as NEP says, that we need to create engaged, contributing citizens for the betterment of, to create like equitable, inclusive, and socially impeccable environment overall. So these initiatives are very much aligned into the NEP thought process, how we are trying to make, and few of the initiatives which I'm going to present, and then Dr. Abhay Jere will be taking forward. So hackathons, that's a buzzword. I'm sure many people out there, the audiences, the listener, and students across the country now, they are aware of hackathons. It has become such a big word. Just like we say, I'd like to present over here Smart India Hackathons. Started in 2017 by none other than my fellow speaker, Dr. Abhay Jere. He sowed the seeds and then handed over the baton. And now in MIC together, we are taking it forward under his guidance. Year on year, if you could see that 2017, it all started. This all program, the event, it was conceived with a very minimal, if we say the fraction of students, they participated somewhere around 50,000. And then to 2 lakh plus, then 3 lakh plus, 4.5 lakh plus. Now, every one of you might be wondering what all these students, they are doing. By coming up with registering and apart from it, for what they are participating. So friends, here, Smart India Hackathon model is such that we take the pressing problems as suggested or recommended by various problem submitting agencies such as central government ministries, state governments, even companies, industries, and then it is a couple of month-long process. It happens year on year when we throw those problem statements to all the students across the country, higher education students, and those students, they propose their solution, they get evaluated, they get filtered, then a couple of them get a chance to participate in the grand finale and propose their solutions, which ultimately our motive is that their solutions can get implementation and can see the daylight and ease the flow up in various departments what they're running for. And mind it, we do have a lot of prize money and other motivational things out of it. Now, as has been said, the betterment of society, the betterment of citizenship, citizens across the country. Smart India Hackathon has not only changed the innovation landscape in the country, it has become one of the world's biggest open innovation model, where a lot of students, mentors, researchers, faculties, nodal centers, everybody come on a platform, they join hands and then try to solve the pressing problems. So I must say it is just like a wind of change is happening. And now the situation is students, they beforehand ask us that when the next edition is going to happen, when the problem statements are going to come. That is a really mesmerizing thing, which has happened in the country of late. And then our next initiative, which we did, it was National Innovation and Startup Policy. And now why the need of this National Innovation and Startup Policy, it happened. In National Innovation and Startup Policy, what we envisaged and we observed that there are few elite institutions which are having a provision that their faculties, they can do startups, their students, they can do startups, they can become mentors, the faculties I'm talking about. But prima facie in all our HEIs, the thing was the culture was lacking. So we tried to answer that. We actually we are recommending that our faculty members, they should become mentor in startups. They should go ahead and have the director identification numbers for themselves and become a director in the startups and try to become that mentor of change philosophy. And a lot of other guidelines, recommendations are there in this NISP about IP policy driven, about the revenue sharing, about setting up of the company's filing compliances, about the setting up of committee, the panels. Even we are trying to, or we recommended to the institutions and the management that if a student is really devoting time to the startup and management or the committee formed in the institution, they believe that it can be, it is comparable enough. Can the student be given some benefit of it and maybe mentored further, maybe connected to investors further? So everything has been laid out pretty neatly out here in NISP. Again, moving back to hackathon, I missed this particular slide. If you look out that Smart India hackathons we mentioned, and this is the next stage, what happens after Smart India hackathons, international hackathons, which is again, needless to say, for Smart India hackathons as well, our Honorable Prime Minister, every year he comes on board, he interacts with the students who are solving the problem statements, and he really asks them that what kind of a solution those students are providing and suggesting, and then he also recommends them a couple of things and through his experience. And the winner of these Smart India hackathons are then further taken up and moved on for international programs such as the Singapore India Hackathon, which this current slide is offering, and a lot of other initiatives which again been initiated by our Honorable Prime Minister, which is like ASEAN, India ASEAN Hackathon, India Portugal Hackathon, and a lot of other opportunities which are being provided to students. So it is like bridging the cultural gap, not only nationally, not only indigenous, it's about going international, taking our students to a level. And again, I would like to highlight the students who are taken over here. It's nothing like that they have to. It's everything on the house. We literally shortlist them. We take them from it's being provided from their house to the station, to the journey for the experiences, and then going back. Many of the testimonials we have received from the students that it's a life-changing experience which they have experienced during these couple of days. This is the glimpse of NISP launch. Then another initiative which I would like to highlight over here, there's a very recent initiative by MIC, it is named as Yukti 2.0. What we thought out here at Innovation Cell Center, that there are a lot of startups which are coming in or bleeding in our HEIs. But what we do miss that we never had the collated database where we can hunt, we can shortlist that, okay, X company in the agriculture domain working on AI space, how can we shortlist, how can we immediately get them on board and try to answer the problem which is realistic and immediately, which is a much pressing problem. So we came up with concept called Yukti, as name suggests. So it Yukti 2.0, it came over from Yukti, which was launched by then MHRD, that is Young India Combating COVID with Knowledge, Technology and Innovation. Now, why we said it Yukti 2.0? Because we are trying to gather, collate all these startups, all the ideas which are at the varied level of TRLs, that is technology readiness levels, on a platform so that they can come over. Then we have a big expert panel, subject matter experts who can mentor them, handhold them, and then further we are again trying to take them and provide some investment assistance from different government sources, not only government sources, even private investors who can just think over, who can are going to believe that yes, these are the technologies we have to take forward. So we have separated them on a different level of TRLs, and we are very soon planning to have virtual roadshows as far as pandemic scenario continues, and then we are really trying to have the physical roadshows down the line and tell people, show people that see, this is what youth of India, this is what higher education students of India they are bringing in, they're doing, and we need to support them. We need to provide them the ample opportunities to proceed further and move ahead. And it's just like vocal for local situation. We need to harness the stuff. And moving on further, I would like to say I like to stop here considering the time constraints. And one last thing I would like to highlight, that is very soon we are going to come up with the NIPLI, that is National IP Literacy Initiative. And as you must have seen during the Dr. Gupta's presentation, she very clearly highlighted the plight of India in patent filing scenario. Like US files so many, China files so many, and India is just like few thousands. how to improve them. We have done a lot of introspection at our end, and that brought us to an initiative which we thought that our higher ed people, they are sitting on gold mines, and why can't we encourage them? Why can't we spread awareness so that they can be motivated further to file a lot of IP? So it's during our beloved president, ex-president Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's birth anniversary, October 15th, we are going to come up with a week-long national IT literacy initiative, ultimately which may lead to the filing of somewhere around 10,000 patents. Completely understand that this is a goal which we are eyeing for, but I'm certain, I'm really sure that collectively, when all the stakeholders they will be involved, they are going to channelize the energies, we will certainly achieve this. Now with these words, I would like to invite Dr. Abhay Jere to proceed further. And okay. I will do these slides for you, Dr.
Yes. Thank you, Mohit. So, presentation by Ravi, Professor Ravi and Dr. Shelja has been very, very enthusiastic. Thanks, Mohit, for actually taking through some of the initiatives which we are doing as part of MHRD or MoE's innovation cell. So, dear friends, when the discussion on national education policy started within MHRD about 3 years back, at that time, the Secretary of Higher Education, Sri Subramaniam, and he's an IAS officer, he said that, yes, we will be including large number of emphasis, or we will be having large amount of emphasis on innovation, on entrepreneurship, on design thinking skills, on cognitive skills in our national education policy. But we don't need to wait for this policy to come out, and we should start working parallelly without wasting time, without losing time on these aspects, because it is extremely critical for us to ensure that the innovation culture, ideation culture, entrepreneurship culture gets established in our education system. Meanwhile, Niti Aayog also came up with Atal Tinkering Lab initiative, where they established 5,000 tinkering labs within schools. And the primary objective of this tinkering lab initiative was also to promote students to actually try their new concepts, work on their new ideas, do it yourself kind of culture. And a lot of the learnings from these initiatives have gone into the new education policy. If you see word innovation in new education policy, it is mentioned on almost every para. It has become the fundamental basis of our education policy. So when we started working on this initiative, we were working on 4 pillars, primary pillars. One, how we can unshackle our students, our faculty to get into and promote them to get into innovation and entrepreneurship. And that is the reason we got this National Innovation and Startup Policy. Some of the recommendations in these policy are also included in the new NEP, which is there, which also talks about giving students breaks to pursue their entrepreneurship or to pursue their passion, coming back, rejoining the course, making it far more flexible. Then credit banks. Here also we are talking within this National Education and Startup Policy about giving credits if you are pursuing entrepreneurship, during your academics. If a student is pursuing his startup, and if he takes a break of maybe a 6 months or a year, then he is doing a lot of work while he is working on his entrepreneurship. So whether we can convert some of those efforts into credits, that is, and we believe that this now new credit transfer system, which is going to get created as part of this innovation, new education policy, will help in huge amount or give solid impetus to pursue entrepreneurship to youngsters while they are in their academics. So this was the first pillar, unshackling the professors. Then the second pillar is actually of hand-holding. Because nowadays there is a lot of buzzword or buzz around innovation, entrepreneurship. But if you talk to many of the leaders in private, they will tell you that, yes, they agree that it needs to be done, but sometimes they really don't know how to go about it. And that's where we felt implementation, when we are talking about NEP, some part of that we have started as part of Innovation Cell through an initiative. It's a pilot initiative for us, but through initiative called as IICs, Institutional Innovation Councils. In these IICs, or through these IICs, we are currently hand-holding about 1,700 institutions on regular basis. And when I say regular, I'm talking about monthly basis or fortnightly basis, asking them what to do and what not to do. We are giving them events, we are giving them initiatives which they have to do, and we are giving them a very concrete guideline which they have to follow. And we are not only just giving them those, we are also tracking and monitoring the outcome. And if you really look at the slide, you will see that because of our efforts, because of our push, there have in this country more than 34,000 initiatives related to innovation entrepreneurships have happened. They are done by various colleges, these colleges at different time points in last 2 years. It's a phenomenal achievement. So what we are saying, don't wait for implementation of NEP. Let's start working on it. And we know what we wish to achieve. We wish to achieve the society which is great at problem solving, which we wish to achieve the generation or create the generation which has great communication skills, cognitive skills, problem solving skills, design thinking skills. And that's the mandate on which our MoE's Innovation Cell is working. And we are very happy to share with you, in various initiatives, we have involvement of more than 60 lakh students and about 9 lakh faculties. This 60 lakh student is not a unique number, to be very honest, because one student or one faculty can be involved in multiple initiatives. But this 34,000 is a very, very unique initiative, or this is a very unique number. They are the unique initiatives. And what we are trying to develop here through this IIC is completely create a culture, a 360-degree culture of identifying a problem, then working on a solution, creating a team, then creating a proof of concept on that solution based on that concept or solution, then actually looking into the IP component of it, then pushing good ideas into incubator system. And we are funding some of these great ideas which are coming out of this system. For example, last year, we had 1,600 ideas initially identified at college level. And we We filtered and filtered. It went through 3-4 rounds of screening. And eventually, we had about 43 ideas, which were really good. We got them to Delhi. We actually showcased it here. And now we are funding about 17 of those ideas from those 43 ideas. We are giving funding up to 10 lakh rupees. And we are ensuring that those products get actually converted into good startups. Next slide. Mohit, next slide, please. So this is just the dashboard. It's a snapshot of the dashboard where we are capturing the performance of these 1700 institutions. And each institution can see their performance as compared to the top performer. Their students' participation, their faculty participation, what kind of rank they are having, who are their star performers. And we believe that this dashboard, it actually gives these institutes a matter of pride, that their students are getting featured or their faculties are getting featured on MoE's or MHRD's website. Next slide. Another interesting initiative is, again, as a part of hand-holding, as a part of this culture creation, is Innovation Ambassador Program. What we realized when we spoke to large number of students is that the culture within the educational institutes is still driven by marks, is still driven by grades. Professor Ravi actually spoke about changing this culture. He spoke about promoting innovation. He spoke about promoting research. And NEP has huge emphasis on it. But we are carrying this legacy of last 70 years. And it is going to be a very difficult task. And it is going to be a tectonic shift from where we have to change, or where we have to change the mindset of teachers, of professors, and even of parents, from mark grade or grade-based approach to ideation-based approach. But if we have to evolve as a knowledge-based society, which Professor Ravi was talking about, or knowledge-based economy, then we really need to evolve as society, which celebrates ideas, which handhold ideas, which actually takes ideas forward. But on the contrary, what happens currently? Large number of ideas get killed. Large number of ideas get sabotaged at ideation itself, and they are sabotaged at home or in colleges or in our educational institutes. And we felt that we need to do intervention at that level. And that's the reason we got this program called as Innovation Ambassadors Program, where we selected 4 faculties from our IIC institutes and trained each of the faculty in 4 different aspects related to innovation and entrepreneurship. We trained 1 faculty in design thinking and innovation, another faculty in IPR and how to manage IPR. Then the 3rd person was trained into entrepreneurship development program, how to do market research, how to actually look at market opportunities, and so on and so forth. And 4th person was trained into pre-incubation and incubation management, means how to handle an idea at pre-incubation level, how to take it forward, then how to take it to incubation level, and at incubation, what should be done. So what we felt that if we just train 1 or 2 people within an organization, then our experience shows that all the other people gang up against these 2 people or one person or 2 people. And eventually the enthusiasm of this trained person goes down. So we felt there has to be some critical mass within the institution which will promote these aspects which are very, very critical for us. And that's the reason we chose 4 faculties as innovation ambassadors within each institution. And we did a very, very small intervention, which has really created huge impact. What we did was that we gave them a very fantastic or a very cute metal badge, which they can wear on their chest, which says MHRD's Innovation Ambassadors. And because it was an MHRD's endorsement, these professors use, or not to use to, still wear that badge with pride, because they feel that they are direct representatives of MHRD within their organizations. So they try calling them or try showing them that they are special, they are trained, they're elite. And because of that, large number of students are aware, or they get aware that these are the people whom they should approach if they have good ideas. And now we have given multiple tasks to these innovation ambassadors, and these innovation ambassadors are helping us actually create that sustainable change which we all aim for. The third pillar is, as I said, the first pillar is of getting right policies in place. The second pillar is hand-holding or right implementation. The third pillar is actually ensuring how these people perform against each other, which Mohit already talked about when we are doing initiatives like Smart India hackathons or international hackathons or challenges, Samadhan, Ideathons, where we want students to compete at national level. Because if you really look at the students from tier 1 organizations like IITs and NITs, they get huge amount of opportunities. But if you go to tier 2 colleges, tier 3 colleges, tier 4 colleges, there are also bright students in those organizations, but they hardly get opportunities to actually showcase their talent at national level. And initiatives like Samadhan, Ideathon, Smart India Hackathon is an opportunity for them to actually showcase their talent at national level. And the final pillar is how we can evaluate the outcome of what we are trying to do here. Whether our interventions are bearing any fruits. And for that, for the first time, we actually conceptualized this very unique ranking mechanism called as Atal Ranking of Institutions on Innovation Achievements, or ARIA. So in this ranking, what we are trying to do is to measure the different parameters related to innovation ecosystem within an institution and rank the institutions based on their ability to promote innovation and entrepreneurship within their campuses. Next slide, please. Mohit. And we are measuring these parameters in 6 or 7 different buckets. First is input. What kind of budget and annual expenses you are putting, what kind of money you are putting, what kind of infrastructure you have created for promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. Then processes, when we are talking about, is what kind of courses you are offering, what kind of handholding you are doing, whether you have an IPR center, whether you have a mechanism to guide students for filing IPRs, whether you have any guidance or systems which will help students register their startups. So that is processes. And outcome, the third parameter, which involves how much patents you have generated. If you have patents or granted patents, how much of them have been commercialized? How much technology is getting transferred to the institutions? How much revenue is getting generated from these patents? Then how many startups are there in your institutes? How many are students-based startups? How many of your faculties are on board of startups or are involved in startups? If yes, then what are their DIN numbers? If startups are registered, what are their SIN numbers? How many startups have really graduated? How many startups have failed? So we are looking at these multiple parameters because we want to push this ecosystem, and we believe that if we start ranking based on innovation and entrepreneurship, then large number of organizations who are actually talking about innovation and entrepreneurship would like to get that endorsement from us, would like to tell the world that they are part of this entire system and they are getting support and acknowledgement from Ministry of Education. So for the first edition, when we started working on, we had 815 institutions initially participating, but out of which about 460 institutes end up submitting the complete data, because even best of the IITs didn't have the data which we were asking for. They struggled to collect that data, but now they have created systems to actually give us the data. Similarly, large number of universities which never talked to each other within their departments, they were working in silos. They were also struggling to get that data. So initially for the first year, we hardly had participation from 450 plus institutions, really where we got the good data. For the second edition, we had participation from about 700 institutions. And now, this year, we are aiming to have participation of 3,000 institutions in this ARIA ranking. And we believe that if we can get all major educational institutes into this framework, then we will ensure that innovation ecosystem not only gets initiated in these institutes, but it will eventually get sustained in these institutions, which NEP wish to achieve through its various programs. So I believe that through the new education policy, as well as National Research Foundation and MHRD's or MoE's innovation cell, which is working currently, we will able to create the tectonic shift within our educational institutes and push them to change from marks-based approach, from grade-based approach to innovation, entrepreneurship, and startup-based approach within the education campuses. So thank you very much. Really appreciate for joining us. And if Mohit, you have any questions, I will be more than happy to take the questions.
Yes, and thank you so much, Dr. Jire, for the enlightenment and providing everyone with the information that what has been achieved for. And establishment of these IICs as a real commendable effort, which I could see from MoE's innovation cells end. Now, as we talk about, I would really, I'm sure the audience will also be. We have seen primarily a lot of technology colleges, they are the front runners in all these aspects. I would like to know your take on that how can we or are we doing something to bring in the non-tech or the other space, which our NEP also mandates in this foray of innovation and entrepreneurship. Dr. Jerry, please. Dr. Jerry, you are on mute.
Dr. Mohit, you have raised a very, very important question. And as you are also aware, that large number of institutes which are currently participating in our ARIA ranking are technical institutions. Very few, about 5% to 7% of the institutions are non-technical institutions. If we are aiming to reach this goal of 3,000 institutions, which we are all aiming together, then we have to ensure that we have large number of non-technical institutions also joining ARIA ranking framework. Because at the end of the day, innovation also needs to happen in non-technical institutions. In India, if you really look at technical institutions, we have 80 lakh students, but together we have 3.5 lakh crore students and higher education. It means that more than 2.7 crore students are in non-technical institutions. So getting those non-technical institutions into this or pushing these non-technical institutions to actually establish innovation ecosystem is extremely critical. And for that, now we have constituted a committee to specially look at ARIA framework from a non-technical institution perspective. And this year, it will be included, and we will be doing a special campaign to get non-technical institutions on board. And we hope that we are successful in that.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. I believe the institution and the colleges who are not at all able to participate owing to a couple of these lacunas, now they will be participating in a big way and strengthening the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem. So I would request Dr. Ravi and Dr. Gupta just on their video, and maybe we can have a quick print screen and then say adieu to everyone, the lovely audience who have listened us. In case Dr. Abhay, Dr. Ravi or Dr. Shelja would like to say something or would like to have one quick departing message, it would be. Yeah. Dr. Gupta? Yes, she is also there. Dr. Ravi, I would request you to maybe, because time is really running fast, any departing message to the audience, what are the message you would like to convey and sum up for our audience about the NEP and its intervention in innovation and entrepreneurship space?
So Mohit, are we taking selfie? We should take selfie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Dr. Mohit and Dr. Abhay, and of course Dr. Shelja, I think this my feeling after listening to all of us, and also the comments which I just went and peeped into the YouTube, is that I think there is already a lot of elements available in the country, whether it is facilities or people or ideas, whatever. I think it is just putting all the ingredients together and cooking the recipe actually. And I think the NEP, National Education Policy, just gives the recipe now. We just have to cook the ingredients and get this whole beautiful dish out to people and make a real difference. That's the feeling I got. And I think this itself is the same theme which we've been talking about. Dr. Shalja also talked about, Dr. Abhay, and of course yourself also talked about how all these major initiatives, and the Smart India Hackathon is an excellent global example of we can actually pull it off and do it. No, it's possible to do that. I mean, handling 4.5 lakh people, I think students and faculty and all that, is commendable by any international standards. I don't think any country has done it before. So I think it's a question of just putting our willpower together in a laser focus in the same direction. There will be debate, there will be discussions, but as our vice president says, we have to finally decide and move ahead in a single direction, no? And not just break chairs and microphones like you've seen other day. I think we just need to got to move forward in one direction.
Thank you so much, Professor Ravi. I would like to now move on to Dr. Gupta.
This actually was a very informative session for me, and Abhay, I had no idea what ICE was already doing, and that is tremendous amount of work which has been carried out. And like you said, and Ravi said, opportunities are already available within the country, and there are various things which are happening across the country, and it is the integration of every opportunity and every provision that the government is creating should be available for everyone across the country. And I think we are getting there one step at a time, one success at a time. and to accelerate the pace and to exponentially grow is what we are looking at. And I'm sure with the forward-looking ideas like the NEP and the NRF, we hope that the exponential growth which this country is looking to create in our to be knowledge economy will be provided with people like Dr. Abhay Jere, who's taking leads in sort of creating that milieu of people who are thinking differently and innovatively, and people like Professor Ravi from IIT from Mumbai are all everyone sort of inspiring hundreds and thousands of students across the country. And we will hopefully the growth will be exponential rather than linear.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for those words. And now, Dr. Abhay Jere. Abhay, you are on mute.
Yeah, first I would really like to thank Ravi and Shailaja ji for accepting our request and actually working on this presentation. I really liked presentation which both of you have created. I think we can use this presentation for doing a few more sessions also, which we will plan much more meticulously. If we can join this as a team, we will able to get more awareness, because we really need to reach out at a grassroots level to create, to tell youngsters, to tell students, to tell parents about what we are doing through NEP, what we are doing through National Innovation Foundation, and how these steps are game changer steps taken by the country. You know? So we will have to work together in promoting that, and I will be seeking your support even in future to achieve this goal. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. And again, I would like to sum up very quickly, like as these targets they mentioned, all three of them, and one very quick. When you throw a child in a big pool who is pretty young, a few months old, that child swims by himself or herself. I would like to say now, NEP, we are trying to create a pool so that by natural instinct, our kids or our generations to come, they will swim by themselves and create wonders, and maybe much more can be achieved exponentially. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, audience who listened us. Thank you once and all. Thank you.